Did you know that nearly 30% of MSPs have reported they have dealt with sabotage from a previous provider during client transitions? We are going to be talking about what is sabotage, how to prevent it, and ultimately what you need to know to go into it when you have to actually deal with it. My name is Harrison Barron from growth-generators.com. We help MSPs, specifically in the areas of sales and marketing. Before I get into today's video, I do want to mention one quick thing. There is a ton of links down below. I would highly recommend going and checking it out. I've added new videos down there. There is masterclasses down there. There is our membership program if you want to learn more about that to get your MSP to the next level, and a bunch of other good stuff. I would really recommend going and checking it out. And that's it. That's all I have. And also on top of that down there, there's also the Discord. So let's talk about sabotage, because at some point or another, you have either dealt with it or you probably know somebody that has dealt with sabotage. Now, let's define that really quickly. Sabotage can include refusing to hand over credentials, which I'm sure you've probably dealt with, deleting important files, which it kills me inside that I even have to say that, or spreading misinformation to the client. So that means they are either smack talking you, showing different case studies that you might have done something bad in. The list kind of goes on and on and on. And some MSPs may delay the offboarding process to hold or withhold critical information just to make it miserable, not only for the client, because maybe they're upset with the client that they're leaving, or just because they want to just make sure the inevitable is prolonged as long as possible, getting that new, probably your MSP in the door. And it stinks. Don't get me wrong. Losing a client sucks, but sabotaging and dealing with this is not something that you want to do. So before we get into how to handle sabotage, prevention is the best method for just about everything, but specifically in this case for sabotage. So number one is you have to do your due diligence. As you go through this, you always want to make sure that you have a thorough assessment of the environment. As you go in during your onboarding process, hopefully you don't find it after that, because that's not good, but hopefully during your beginner onboarding process, you are going through and doing your due diligence, making sure that the old MSP has no access. Now, once again, we're at 30%. That means the other 70% of people, you're probably not going to have a hard time with. It's just a part of business. But there is a portion of people out there. I've had to deal with it myself. And let me tell you, it sucks. So as you go through this, you want to do your due diligence. You want to make sure you remove all those agents. You want to remove anything that could be from the old MSP. If you don't know what it is, ask. The client probably has a pretty good idea of what they use and what they don't use. By you removing it, you're not going to be doing any harm, especially if you see another big named RMM and PSA tool in there. I say them both because a lot of them do have both features available. Keep that in mind as you go through it. Are you going to have to check through everything? You might. I have seen the worst, and it sucks going through file by file to see if there's any single thing buried in there. It is a daunting and relentless process. The second part to prevention is having a clear contract in place. What to expect, how to deal with this if it does actually happen, and ultimately in your contract, hey, what does the transition away from us actually look like? A contract, if you haven't seen me talk about it in other videos, is a partnership or an agreement that helps both parties. If you are doing a bad job as an MSP, it allows the customer to get out, hopefully scot-free. Now, this brings us to education, because you're going to be dealing with contracts, you're going to be doing your due diligence, you're going to have to spend some time with your client and educate them on what this actual process looks like. Now, you're not going to be dealing with this probably in the initial sales call. This is more of a MSP management. I should probably start saying that in the beginning of the video, but an MSP management process that you have to go through. And it's respectful to teach the clients what to look for, what to deal with, especially if you've gotten the contract signed and they haven't quite notified the current MSP. They haven't picked up the phone. They haven't made that phone call yet saying, hey, 30, 60, 90 days out, we're done. We're cutting it off. That is tremendous. And spending a little bit of time. They have just signed an agreement to pay you tons of money. Spend some time with the client, educate them on what's going on, and just ask them, hey, do you think that these people are going to give you a hard time? Do you have all your login credentials? Can you get them admin login credentials? That way we can, at some point, kick them all off. This is important for you to know, for the clients to know. Ultimately, at the end of the day, they're paying you with their money. And communicate clearly with them what's going to go on throughout that entire process, especially if you have to deal with sabotage, but ultimately preventing that. Getting as far ahead of the curve as possible is only going to win you more battles in your MSP. So now that we've talked about the best method, prevention, let's talk about the inevitable, handling it. Number one is going to be identifying those signs. Now, sabotage can come in a million ways. If you have emailed the other company, five might even be stretching it. Let's get crazy, 10 times. What are the login credentials? Can you give us access? Can you remove your agents? Whatever it might be, have that. Are they missing vital information? Now, I've said this before in other videos, and I will say it again. We are all human. There is a chance they stink and they might not have written all the credentials down. I like to give people the benefit of the doubt, but look for the signs. Identify those signs. Hey, we've removed all the agents and we found one a couple weeks later. Super weird. We found agents hiding in different folders or a extension file that shouldn't be there. You can find a million different things out there. You'll see it and you'll be like, yep, that's not normal. I can only give you a million reasons in a video and I don't want to bore you to death, but you should, as the MSP person, have the wherewithal or the knowledge to say, something seems fishy here. And if you have a gut feeling that you're like, something feels weird, hey, tell the client something's going on. You don't have to say like the world is ending, but if you catch something, it's probably worth mentioning that. The second is taking action, right? You want to be able to identify it, you have to address it, and then you have to act on it. What is it? If you see it in one spot, before you go and remove it, I know this sounds crazy, see where else it might be hiding, because more than likely people aren't that smart. They might leave a file here or there and then they probably sprinkle it around. Keep that file there so you know exactly where they hid it, because more than likely they're not hiding it in a bunch of different folders. They might be hiding it across the board in the exact same folder, just so you have it, and then remove all of it. Take that action as soon as you see fit. Don't immediately act most of the time. If you can, see where it is. Why would they put it there? Try to start reverse engineering it and understand maybe that is a malicious intent, or hey, sometimes we're all human. Maybe they put it in the wrong file, especially if it looks like it was downloaded a couple times. I'm just trying to give people the benefit of the doubt. You shouldn't just assume the worst, although it could potentially happen. And then the last part, legal actions. Call the lawyers and start getting the legal paperwork going. Sometimes, most of the time, it is as simple as drawing up the paperwork and sending it to them. That's usually enough to put people's tail between their legs and send them running and have them remove everything. Usually with a nice apology, we apologize. Seen that happen before. It's totally fine. You might have to get involved with that. If you have to take it one step further and they don't respond, this is why you might want to not remove it immediately and start gathering information, because there could be a legal battle that is about to ensue, and you can only do your best by providing your clients, which is probably who's going to be going through this process I shouldn't say for you, but technically it's their environment. They're the ones that are going to be going through it. You're not getting involved with lawyers. The client is going to ultimately be the one that does that. And if that's the case, you want to give them as much ammunition as possible in the courtroom. So keep that top of mind. It doesn't have to be the first thing, but if you see something, start to just make notes of it, put it in your PSA and your RMM tools, and start to build a case if there is one. Worst comes to worst, you put a bunch of information in there, you find nothing else, and you call it a day, and you never have to deal with it again. Worst comes to worst, you got to go to war. And that's part of the process. And the best tip I can give you throughout this process as you're going through taking on a hopefully minorly sabotage client is you got to build trust, right? The old tech company, specifically an MSP, probably did the client dirty. You are going to have to spend a ton of time building trust. So they trust you now because they've already been burned once. They don't want to be burned again. Build trust, demonstrate the competence that you have, right? Explain the whole process, clear communication, and be super aggressive, especially for the first handful of months. You want to be ultra aggressive when it comes to dealing with tickets, phone calls, over communicating, all of this stuff. Really make that client sit down and say, I made the right choice. That's the best part. And anytime you see something or through that process, especially if you're dealing with the decision maker or the people that put the cash in your hand, follow up. It's easy to do. There's so many abilities to automate things in the system. Do those things. Set it up. Set it and forget it. I feel like the rotisserie commercial back in the day from that little toaster oven thing, which made great chickens, by the way. But jokes. You got to follow up, right? The client is in limbo. They might have just gotten burned. They're trying to trust you because they don't want to bring everything in-house. Following up in that process. Hey, just want to let you know we did this. If you repeat yourself, trust me, the only person you're helping is yourself. The client's gonna be like, oh, you told me that already. I just wanted to make sure I over-communicated. I may have forgotten. I might not have given you all of the information. They won't mind hearing it multiple times over when they're the ones paying you thousands of dollars. Trust me when I say this. The sale is in the follow-up, and in this case, the longevity, the trust is built in the follow-up. Communicate clearly, be super transparent, show them that you know what you're doing, and follow up with them as often as possible. And I promise you, if you've made it this far, hit that like button and that subscribe button, because I should have added it earlier, but I'm still learning this YouTube game. But I love the heck out of you guys. Follow up, like I'm going to follow up, and I'm starting to follow up more about you liking and subscribing videos. But that's the way you win clients. That's the way you deal with sabotage. It sucks. There's no doubt about it. You might have to nuke some systems, save the data, just blow it all out. I've dealt with it before. You will figure out your own path. I can't tell you the right or wrong way, because sometimes you might think it's just, hey, they're giving me a really hard time, or they're not releasing the credentials. People are busy. If they don't give it to you in a day or two, it's okay. It doesn't mean they're sabotaging. They're running a business too. They might be in over their heads. Don't worry about it. But if you've emailed them several times, maybe some phone calls, you might want to start to raise a red flag and start that process. Hopefully this video helps. Like, subscribe, notify. I love the heck out of you guys for always checking out these videos. I have a really, really interesting video on a very popular MSP book coming up after this one. I'll see you guys in the next video. Love you guys. Bye.